Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
And I'm Derek.
He's not sure about that. And this is Screen Bloody Movies, the podcast where we review a horror movie each week, go over the horror news, and we find out in space, no one can hear you scream. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm in a good mood, but I'm really sick. So my energy level might not be here today.
Happens, man. How about you, Derek?
Good. My inner monologue was like, say Ridley Scott, but I was like, no, that would be too weird. I'll just go with Derek. And that's what came out.
You're going to impersonate Ridley Scott? In the words of Dwight,
do it.
Listen, in the words of Dwight Schrute, identity theft is not a joke, Jim.
I do know that lesson personally, so.
Yeah, you and Ridley are good friends. So, guys, it's a lovely night here. I am also doing pretty good. Tired, had a weird weekend, but got to watch a cool bitchin' movie and get to discuss it with you guys. So that's a plus, right?
Right,
Yep.
right.
So before we get into Ridley Scott's 1979 space slasher, because let's face it, Alien is a slasher movie set in space. We will first get into the horror news. Now, guys, this week's horror news was rough because there just was not a lot going on. So I've got us a couple pieces here, and we'll start with this one. Anthony Mackie, which you guys know from Captain America and many, many other films. He is starring in a new creature feature called Elevation that is going to be released in 2024.
Is this about synopsis, the abominable snowman?
It says, a single father and two women must venture from the safety of their home to face monstrous creatures in order to save the life of a child.
Oh.
It takes place in the Rocky Mountains. What do you guys think of that synopsis?
That sounds
Definitely
cool.
A Yeti.
Yeah, sounds cool. Yeah, I'd be down to check it out. Be down to clown. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I've always wanted to go Bigfoot hunting.
Do you? Good luck.
Yep.
Oh, check this out. Speaking of Bigfoot, so this is perfect. When for work, I had to travel to Chicago this weekend, and when we were on our way to Chicago, on the freeway, there was a truck literally hauling like a 7-foot Bigfoot statue just in the back of this truck. And I told my coworker, I was like, well, I found him.
Found
there
him.
He is.
Oh
there
my
he is.
gosh.
So if you guys are looking for Bigfoot hunters out there, he's traveling towards Chicago on the freeway. So
that's incredible.
And by hunting, by the way, I did not mean with a gun, a camera, obviously. I'm humane.
Just like we do with ghost hunting,
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're just looking.
Exactly. Except in the
like,
woods.
Yeah, except in the woods. You just be, what's that? It's just a tree.
I go Bigfoot hunting like every single time I'm hiking. That's what, in my head, I'm like looking for Bigfoot the whole time.
You're like, wouldn't it be wild if Bigfoot was here?
Yeah, I do. I'm like looking around like trees, like
in this small Indiana woodland. Wouldn't it be weird?
Yeah.
If Bigfoot was roaming. Though to be fair, he could probably fit in with just a general populace. Just saying.
There's so many jokes I want to make right now, but I don't really want my house to be targeted, so I'm just going to keep it to myself.
That's disturbing, but okay. So, guys, our best buddy is in the news. with a new movie. Nicolas Cage, whom we are fans of on this podcast, is starring in a new horror movie called Longlegs, directed by Osgood Perkins. The plot is being kept completely under wraps, but all anyone involved with the project will give away is that Longlegs is aiming to be in the vein of classic Hollywood psychological thrillers.
Classic psychological
Wait a
thriller.
second. I have a question.
Mhm.
What happened to his last movie that we were talking about? When is
It's
it gonna
still
get
being made.
released?
It's just not out yet. It's not out yet.
The Dracula one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Renfield. It's
Renfield.
not out. It's just not out yet.
I'm ready
Wait
for
to
it to
see
be
that one.
out.
What do you guys think of this? I mean, there's not much to go on, but I'm down for Nicolas Cage being in a straight up horror movie, right?
Longlegs.
You know what
I think it's
wish?
about
In a-
Daddy Longlegs. It's about
In
a
a-
bunch of Daddy Longlegs running around.
Ooh.
In a perfect world, this would be the sequel to Con Air. And it would be that character who's out of prison and been reformed, and he is now in this new adventure. I would love to see
I
that.
think, well, maybe if you did a sequel where it's also combined with the Arachnophobia franchise.
Yeah.
So he's hunting giant Daddy Longlegs,
Yes.
but he still has
Yeah.
his mullet, of course.
You could have David, what's his face, make an appearance.
David Arquette?
That's who I was talking about.
I knew who you were talking about. I didn't think you meant David Blaine. I mean, he could just make shit disappear, I suppose.
Bring him too. He could be your wizard.
Good
We
old
brought
David
the
Blaine.
wizard.
Didn't think I'd be making a David Blaine
wanna see a
joke tonight on this
card
podcast.
I keep hearing David Blaine lately, so he's getting brought up too much.
That's
It's
really
freaking me
weird.
out.
I never bring up David Blaine.
I know, it's strange. It's like all week
Though
I've
I
been hearing
used
about
to-
David Blaine.
Dad used to love David Blaine. Like, Dad just loved street magic and magic in general.
Oh yeah.
We loved to watch those Magic's Greatest Secrets finally revealed.
Yeah.
Loved every time one of those new specials were on, it was set on the VCR. We're just like, Dad and I are sitting there ready to go with it. We're like, what's the masked
Boy.
magician gonna show us this week?
Yes,
You
I
just
remember those.
dated yourself.
I did, and it's the best part is that it's narrated by and hosted by Mitch Pileggi, good old Horace Pinker himself.
Nice.
All those Gen Zers that watch our podcast are going to be like, that guy just made a reference that I don't know what he's talking about.
Happens a lot. Happens a lot. To
Yeah, it
me
wouldn't be
these
the
days.
first time.
Even when I was younger, I was making 80s pop culture jokes. So people, if they didn't know the 80s, they're like, huh? I'm like, don't worry about it, Ducky. And they're like, what? I was like, you know, John Cryer. Never mind. Don't worry. Just go sing some Otis. What? Don't worry about it. Just forget about it. So this is some news. I don't know how you guys are going to feel about it, but it's about the Conjuring universe. The Crooked Man has been canceled.
What?
It is no longer being made.
And it's gonna be called instead Longlegs, starring Nicolas Cage.
Maybe. So James Wan took to Instagram and said, and no, unfortunately, the spin-off movie with this character isn't happening. Outside of my control, but maybe one day. So it's not moving forward. But we have tons of other Conjuring movies obviously still on the way. We have the sequel to The Nun. We have The Conjuring 4 in the works. New Annabelle's, I think, in the works. So we'll see more from those. But what are you guys' thoughts on this? Were you guys excited to see a Crooked Man movie?
I kind of was, and I'm really curious, like how it's out of his control. You know, like what?
Probably-
I wonder what happened.
It just probably, was taken. I mean, Conjuring 2 came out in what, 2015, something like that, right? And so it's been a long time now, 7 years without any movement on it. So they probably just couldn't crack a story, which I would understand. How are you going to make a story out of that? You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah, I kind of picture like something kind of Babadook like for
Would
that
have to be.
character.
They came out with Conjuring 3.
Right, but they didn't make a Crooked Man movie.
Right.
Oh, okay. I didn't see where you had that connected. I got what you're saying.
I'm saying that he was introduced in Conjuring 2 in 2015, and ever
Gotcha.
since they've been trying to do a spin-off movie, and they just never came to fruition. I mean, that's a long time to be working on a single project for there not to just be a story.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all the titles that you named off that they have like kind of in the fire that they're forming here. So, I mean, was there room to do another one? Maybe it gets put into a different phase. Anyway, who knows?
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, if they could make money, they probably would have fast tracked it, but they just probably couldn't have. They couldn't have broke a story. I mean, that's a hard one to break a story for.
He's almost like a PG-13 kind of character. Like, I feel like it would be hard to make him scary enough. Like, The Nun kind of got less scary when they made a Nun movie, in my opinion.
But I think that was more due to the writing than anything. I just don't think the story was there for it.
Right, exactly.
Because I think the Nun herself can still be terrifying. Obviously,
Definitely.
when we rewatched The Conjuring 2, we were like, yeah, she still holds up.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't want that painting in my house.
I do.
By the way, guys, for Christmas this year, I'm getting each of you a nun canvas painting.
I'll hang it in my living room.
I've got a fireplace.
You need to hang it right behind you in your fucking prison, Derek.
Yes. And then walk down the basement stairs and look at it in the dark.
Yes.
Glowing yellow eyes.
You know, I'm good. I don't see where that's appreciated at all.
He said, I'm good with it. And then finally, this last bit of horror news we have is about Scream 6. Jenna Ortega comments on the tone of the movie, and she calls it both action heavy and gore heavy. She says it's probably the most aggressive and violent version of Ghostface we've seen. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
I don't like it.
That's an interesting take. I'm intrigued.
More violent? But like the most violent?
The most violent, yes. The goriest is what she's saying.
Yeah, I don't like it. Too scary. Too scary for me.
Yeah, well, you're afraid of Scream, so that's true. What do you think,
the
Derek?
twist?
You guys need to watch the 5th one so we can talk about it. Yeah.
No, see, here's my theory. The twist on this one is that it's Sydney Prescott. She finally broke.
Oh, that would be a good twist.
No, they would never do that. It'd be terrible. Yeah.
But yeah, it is intriguing. I like the way that she phrased it, and so it makes me want to catch up on that franchise and watch it.
I mean, it is going to be interesting anyway, because since it's set in the Big Apple, it'll be cool to see it in a new setting. I mean, really, if we think about it, Scream has been set in only 2 settings. We had, Woodsboro for all of the movies except for Part 2, which is set on a college campus.
Wait, the other one was set in Hollywood, wasn't it?
Oh, that's true. One? Part 3 was set in Hollywood. Yeah. So we've seen Hollywood, but it was really only like backlots, not like the whole city. So it'd be interesting to see what's going on with New York. It probably won't be as exciting as when Jason's literally standing in the middle of Times Square, because, I mean, that's fucking crazy. You get Jason literally rampaging through a city. If only the movie surrounding him would have been fucking badass. But that concept, I'll never forget, seeing the video cover at the video store when I was a kid and being like, oh my God, Jason takes Manhattan? I can't, we've got to get to that one. And then seeing the trailer and you see, the city's line, and then it pushes in and Jason turns around as it's playing New York, New York. And you're like, I bet you people probably lost their minds. Friday the 13th fans seeing this trailer like, this is going to be the tits. And then they watched it and they're like, God damn it.
Every time we talk about something like that, I get a real nostalgic feeling that comes over me. And no video store had quite the connection like Video West.
Oh yeah, Video West was the all-time.
It's because it had like a distinct. It wasn't a bad smell. It had a distinct smell to it.
It sure did. It smelled like
And-
the tape cases and the little plastic tags.
Yeah, it really is super nostalgic whenever I think of anything that occurred. That's where my brother like shoved me over and I fell into the things and scratched my back. But yeah. Anyway,
we rented many a terrible movie from there, Derek.
Man, I remember they had the little like swinging doors for the adult section.
Yeah,
I went back there when I was like 8. I snuck back there. And I'm like, what am I looking at?
They had swinging doors like you were entering it's like you were entering the goddamn Wild West.
Right.
It's literally just like Wild West doors. It's like, that's great. I'm not going to name the teacher, Derek, but do you remember when we were at family video, and we were putting away video movies for Carrie? We used to do that. Our friend Carrie worked at the video family video, so she would hand us all the porn movies and have us go do it. She's like, "You got?" We're like, "Yeah, we'll go do it." So we put all these in, and we were walking out. As we were walking out, one of our teachers was about to walk in and saw us, and I was like, "Hey," I had like a conversation with him, and he literally was like, "Were you guys just in there?" We're like, "Oh yeah, we're putting away videos, you know." And he's like, "Oh, I'm going over here," and like did like a turn, like he was actually renting something. I was like, "Nah, come on, you were totally gonna rent some porn. It's fine."
Such a weird idea.
What subject did they teach?
Well, they
you
were
give that away because
no, because they were a younger school teacher, grade school teacher. They weren't in high school.
Dang it.
I'll tell you off mic who it was. You probably forgot.
Okay.
I'll tell you off mic. Yeah.
Okay.
But it was hilarious. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what comes of Scream. I just love Scream in general, so I am going to be disappointed that we're not going to see Sid. Not that if they didn't have Sydney in the movie, I wouldn't have minded. It's the fact that they refused to pay her is why I'm pissed off about it.
Yeah.
You could give her a break and have a movie without her, let her character move on and live her life and survive. But when they were like, "We want you back," she's like, "Okay, give me this," and they're like, "Nah." Then I'm just like, "Well, fuck you guys," you know?
Yep, I know what you mean.
Fuck out of here.
Yep. If you know what you're worth, go out and get what you're worth.
Yeah, exactly. And that, guys, wraps up this week's edition of the Horror News. So, let's get into it. Let's start talking about Ridley Scott's 1979 sci-fi horror classic, Alien. Lydia.
So,
go ahead.
Off the top, I got to tell you this. So,
go ahead,
I told Quincy what we are watching this week, and she was like, "Isn't that a sci-fi movie?" And I was like, "I mean, I guess it's in space, but it's a creature feature, really. Instead of on
clearly
Earth,
a horror movie.
It's space. Yeah, it's definitely a horror movie." So she was confused. It's also probably been like a couple of decades since she's seen this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slasher movie. It's a slasher movie in space. The set pieces are 100% slasher movie set pieces.
Oh yeah.
The way the alien stalks is a slasher villain. The scares are slasher villain-esque. So
Jump scare got me.
Yep, there's a couple of good ones. Lydia, let's start with you. Is this your first time watching this?
Pretty much. I'm gonna say
okay.
mostly. I have not watched this movie all the way through until this watching, so that was interesting. But my first memory of seeing this movie was when I was really little. I was spending the night at my cousin's house, and I like got up to ask my uncle for like maybe something like a glass of water or snack or something, I forget. But because I was really little, but this is like one of my earliest memories of seeing like horror movie gore. And so I walk into the living room just out of sight from where he was sitting, And I was about to ask, and I'm just looking at his giant TV. Like, I've never even seen a TV so big in my life at this point in the 90s.
Yeah, it was probably 27 inches.
Yeah, I'm looking at this massive like theater TV, and it's like the chest burster scene. So I just stood there like eyes wide, just in shock. I'm just like, what am I like? What are you watching in here? You know, just mind blown. But I didn't have like the reaction of like, that's real and I'm terrified and I'm having nightmares. I was like, I want to see more of this movie. Like, I was like immediately into it because just like my, you know, just when you're a horror lover, you know, I'd probably already seen like Goosebumps and all these like, you know, starter scary movies kind of things. So, and then I saw the chest burster and I was so shocked and I was like, what is going on? So I always have wanted to just watch this movie through, and I never have, but I've always had that memory of being like, this looks amazing.
So this was your first watch then?
Yeah.
All the way through. Nice. Derek, what are your memories of Alien? Because this isn't your first time watching it.
No, it's not. And I don't have just like a memory. I don't remember the first time I saw this movie. I've seen this movie over the course of my lifetime like 6 or 7 times. You know, like every now and then it would be on TBS. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they'd have a
TBS did play these a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably the studio that, or related to the studio that owned it. But yeah, you know, it's always been there. I've watched it a couple of times, and you know, one day we'll get into the sequels, and even kind of later in the franchise. I think that. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get into it in a little bit, but yeah, I don't remember the first time I saw this.
Yeah, I struggle to. I struggle to remember the first time I watched it too. Like I was young. I do know that. I remember, like, I almost feel like the alien, the xenomorph, was just always there.
Yeah.
In my subconscious because it's such a pop culture icon, you know, and it's like so well known. I remember watching Aliens a lot. I watched Aliens more than I watched this. That's for sure. When I was younger, because it's more action heavy, you know. But the first time I really got to see it in Blu-ray is when I like in HD was when I bought the Blu-ray of it. I bought like the 30th anniversary of it or something on Blu-ray, and I sat down and watched it, and I was blown away by like how gorgeous this movie is in the HD. I was like, oh wow. And the set design in this movie and the miniatures are like phenomenal. They're phenomenal. So yeah, it's always kind of been there. What I always think about when I think of Alien is, I think what I saw before I saw Alien was Spaceballs and the chestburster scene in Spaceballs.
Yeah.
Where they parody it. John Hurt sitting in a cafe and he's like, "Not again."
Oh no, not again.
What do you Jake brought that up while we were watching it.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. It turns into the Michigan J Frog. Silly. So yeah, it's great. Where do you guys want to start? Do you want to start at the? You want to talk about the xenomorph first, or what do you guys? Where do you guys want to start?
Sure.
It's up to you guys.
You want to know what I want?
Okay.
Do you know anything about the history of this movie?
Some, yeah.
You are a truly kind of history buff when it comes to movies. I want to know, like, how much Ridley Scott like had mapped out before he made this movie.
Oh, nothing. Nothing.
So, like, the things that followed it in the far future, more recent to us, were not even
reverse engineered. I mean, there was ideas about where they came from and stuff, but Ridley Scott didn't develop this script. He didn't write it. He was brought in as a director for hire.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I mean, it was written by Dan O'Bannon, wrote the screenplay, and they wrote several iterations of it. Did you know, this is interesting, in the early drafts, through most of the drafts of this movie, Ripley was a man.
You and I talked about this at one point in life.
Yeah, Ripley was a man. Yeah.
Wow.
And then, they decided to change it to a woman, and luckily cast Sigourney Weaver because she's excellent. And we get one of the best horror, female protagonists in cinema.
Yep.
So yeah, the design of the xenomorph is iconic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a cool design, and it's so scary the way like the alien itself looks, with the long domed head and the multiple teeth, the multiple mouths. It's so scary.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they lit it makes it so terrifying, with the freaking goo coming off of its mouth and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I can't even tell you the amounts of bricks I would shit.
Oh my
If I
god,
came
could you imagine?
Something like that. Like, I would just probably have a heart attack. It wouldn't even have to kill me. I just be like,
Yeah. Well, because it's super tall on top of everything, and it's just this terrifying creature. You're just like, and it fucking bleeds acid. All right. That sounds good. Let's totally fight that thing.
yeah,
Man.
no kidding.
So this movie starts off, I really enjoy the opening of this movie. It starts off unlike anything that would, you don't get a horror movie vibe. You get a sci-fi vibe at first.
100%.
The only hints that it's horror is that the opening is so ominous. The opening, like, music and the alien font appearing is so, I love the way that it does that, just slowly appears throughout the credits, showing on screen. But it's very, like, we get these, like I said, the set design's gorgeous. So we get these beautiful shots of like the ship, and it looks very lived in, which you can thank Star Wars for. Ridley Scott himself said Star Wars was the influence, because in Star Wars you can see the bolts in the ships and grease pits, and it looks like a used universe. So they're like, these stories with what is essentially space truckers needs to be in this used world.
Yeah.
Yeah, this used world. And we get they pull a couple of tricks on us, because the first character we see is John Hurt's character, Crane. We see him first. He's the first person to wake up from the pod, and he goes on the mission to the planet. So you're kind of tricked into thinking that he's probably going to be your main character, or one of them, if you've never seen it before. I mean, they set up him and Dallas as both like the main characters.
Yeah.
For sure. What do you guys think of this crew? What do you think of these characters?
I think they're kind of strange. I think it's like a strange group. Like, I don't know. There was something about the cast, and not the casting, but just the actual characters themselves, that I was like, I didn't get very attached to them. Is how I kind of felt. You know what I mean?
I had the opposite effect. I totally attached these characters because they just seem like blue collar workers.
Yeah, but I guess that's what was confusing about it, is that they're clearly like special, important people that are being sent on this mission. Like,
they're not.
That most people don't get to go on, though.
But that's not the case.
Yeah, because you're right, and you mentioned this. Like, they're a mining crew. Like, they had just went and like harvested so many tons of ore, and
they're
space
transporting
truckers. Back.
Yeah.
I mean, they are miners.
In this world, in this timeline that they're in, space travel exists. It's a thing, and they're just miners.
They're just the truckers.
the truckers. they're not any more important. They work for Wayland Industries, who hires them to go mine these things, and they were the crew that happened to be closest to the alien ship. So
Yeah.
they send them, and that's why they're expendable, because
So
they're nothing.
here's Lydia. Did you want to finish something on any of that before I go into this next piece?
No.
Okay. So here's the thing that made me feel like there was a subplot, and it would probably have been for the company that they work for, Wayland Industries.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1 or 2 days, Dallas was talking about, like, now I forget his name, but the science advisor on the crew,
Ash?
how he got replaced like a couple of days, or the person who was normally on the crew got replaced a couple of days. It almost made me feel like they kind of knew that this might happen.
They did. I think they did that, but it was also more like they were expendable. They were just the crew that could, and no matter what happened, if they all died, but they got the alien specimen, it was a success to
For
them.
sure. It's just like the way that because he and Ripley are talking, and she was like, how much do we know about this guy? Because he's giving off some strange vibes, and he was like, they replaced.
I think that's more because they just wanted they didn't want him to know that he was a droid, that he was an android. They didn't want him to know that. So it was more like they just have an android on there to keep tabs. And then once anything happens, he just completely obeys all the commands because he's an android. He's Wayland property. So he's just kind of.
Yeah, he he would probably have been the smartest person on the entire crew. Right?
Well, yeah.
He makes some really bad mistakes. And
they're not mistakes. They're not mistakes.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, that they could have probably captured this thing, like, from the get-go. And Ripley she's on it, because she's left back on the ship whenever they go out to explore, once they've got this distress signal.
Let's talk about that scene first, the face hugger. Let's talk about that. Yep. What are you guys' thoughts on that scene, the face hugger attack? And just they're on the engineer's ship and everything, and we see the engineer.
I loved that. I loved, like, seeing the engineer, and I loved seeing, like, all the eggs, and, like, him going down there was really suspenseful. When he slips.
Creepy. Yeah. When he's like touching it. Yeah.
Did they name him as the engineer, or is that our?
That's just us knowing what he is now, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because I think at first he was just called, like, Space Jockey.
Space Jockey, yeah.
That scene I love that scene. First off, that whole thing where he's sitting in this seat, this giant monster of an alien, and he's been there for a very long time, because they said that his bones had been fossilized, and the little note that they make, they're like, "Oh, this is strange. The bones are protruding outward."
Yeah.
That I love that scene. It's so cool.
I like seeing when he goes down to the egg, and I like how you can see inside the egg. And you can see, like, the face hugger through it. And then he's like, you know what? Let me mess with this. I've been like, that's not going to be me. That would not be me.
Yeah. There's no amount of curiosity that I have in my body that would make me be like, oh, what's in there?
Yeah. No, me neither.
Nah.
I'm with you. Nah. And then they
get the android. We got something here.
When it jumps out, it's a good jump scare if you've never seen it before and you didn't know what was going to happen. Just like, oh shit. And then Ripley, of course, like you were saying, Derek, is following protocol, saying, don't let them in because they could be contaminated. And
Yeah.
Ash lets him in because of the directive.
Yeah. But even then, like, there are still ways that you could have done it and still maintain the specimen. And I love, like, whenever they get in and they're like trying to, like, they cut his helmet off, and I forget the guy's name, but he's sitting out there. Why don't they freeze him? Why don't they freeze him?
Yeah, I love Yofet Kato's character in this. He's so funny. He's just all about,
surviving.
Parker's his name. Yeah, he's the engineer he's the chief engineer.
I will say that, like, I had kind of against what Lydia said, and to each their own for sure. I felt like the characters had a good camaraderie with one another.
They
what I mean? The
There's
only one I
also
really
certain
didn't think that
tensions.
they did was the other lady on the crew. I feel like she kind of felt like the outsider, but man, I don't know how you make that. Is a huge mistake to make. Letting somebody who potentially could be infected with something on your ship. How do you do that?
Because the science officer is an android and was specifically ordered to let the specimen on the ship.
Not only that, but, like, the captain, Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas also doesn't want to lose any of his crew members. That's part of it too.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to lose any of his crew members.
He's the only one thinking rationally.
Yeah,
she and the other guy.
When they're doing, like, the kind of, like, autopsy, trying to figure out what this thing is, and they can't remove it from his face. I love when we find out about the acid, when they cut the thing off and it bleeds the acid, and they're like, it's gonna rip through the hull, which is such a scary idea to think about too.
Yeah.
Yep. For sure.
It goes straight through, like, a couple floors.
Yeah, just eats a hole through it. So I was like, what's their plan? They're like, let's get there. I was like, how are you gonna fucking stop it?
Yeah. Like, they were like, don't get under it.
Yeah, it's like, how are you gonna stop it?
Yeah.
But what a defense mechanism if you're an alien species, like, what?
Yeah.
You have no natural predators. Bada bing. Anyway.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. It's very cool. I love that. And then we find out that, that Kane is awake. Or not awake. First, the creature's gone. That scene where the facehugger is gone is so suspenseful, right?
Yeah.
It is. They did a good job.
And when he touches it and it, like, curls up, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, it's dead." And he's like, "It bleeds acid. Let's just get rid of it. Like, let's throw it away." So I'm pretty sure that Ash knows that it's incubated in him.
He has to.
He does.
Like, what other purpose would a face hugging creature have, where then it just died, other than to lay an egg? Like, it wouldn't make any sense. And the fact that they don't, I don't even know if it would be X-rays at this point, because this is set like 15 years in our current future.
Yeah.
So 2037.
Yeah,
I don't know how
it was 1979, so it was like, way in the future.
Yeah. But I don't know how you don't X-ray him right after to be like, okay, well, this thing just was attached.
I think he does.
Yeah.
Ash does. But his primary objective is to get the creature, save the specimen. So
yeah,
he's like, we got the specimen. It's here. It's alive. We're good to go. And that's why he's watching him so closely on the dinner scene, the chestburster scene.
He is watching him, yeah.
And so, guys, let's talk about the chestburster scene. Let's start with you, Lydia, because you mentioned it early. That was one of your early memories. How did it play this time?
Pretty good. I think since I've heard so much about it, like watching other like horror reviews and countdowns and things like that, it kind of like lost a little bit of the the scariness because I knew it was gonna happen.
Right. It's an iconic scene. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But it looks really cool, and it's just a great thing to watch. A little alien burst out of someone's chest.
It does look
with
great.
Its little teeth.
The teeth are so cool. It's really scary because it's like, can you imagine? We're all sitting around the table, and then a thing bursts out of one of the somebody's chest.
Yeah.
And that thing fucking popped out. No, thank you.
It's so gross.
It is. No, thank you. And I love the actors play it great, mostly because they didn't know it was going to happen the way it happened. When they did not expect to get sprayed with blood like that. Yeah. And then this thing to pop out. That was the shock on their face was real. Like, what in the fuck what is going on? Which would be your reaction, right? Like, total shock. What say you, Derek?
And so the way that you just framed that, you really only get one shot at that, like that authenticity, because like if one of the actors is just like, man, what the fuck just happened, and like breaks character, then it's kind of ruined. But the fact that if that did occur and they weren't really expecting that to happen, I can only imagine that I would have a very I would genuinely be like, what's going on?
Yeah, so, and I mean, they read the script. They knew,
I'm sure
the scene was happening, of course, but they didn't know how it was going to happen. So it's similar to, in The Exorcist, which we'll get to eventually. The pea soup, when she vomits in his face, he wasn't expecting it to. He was expecting her to vomit, but he wasn't expecting a projectile pea soup to smash him in the face. So his reaction is pretty. His shock is genuine. So yeah, the chest burster, and then it runs off screen, and then they're like pretty casual, trying to try to stay as calm as possible. They shoot off Kane into space, give him the Spock treatment.
Of all the souls I have encountered in my travels, his was the most
human.
Oh my gosh.
Some Wrath of Khan for you. And shoot him off into space, and then they're like, well, this thing's little. Let's use this fucking cattle prod on it. And we'll just cattle prod it over. And they're obviously all looking for it, but there's like way less urgency than there would have been for me. I'd have been like, we gotta figure this out.
Yeah, man.
I'm locking myself in this pod.
Yeah.
For sure. I definitely wouldn't be roaming around the ship. With this. And this is kind of a half put together plan anyway, because the only way that they have to try to identify this thing is this like gimpy little thing that the android comes up with that senses like disturbances in the air.
Yeah. And we know that that's not reliable because he is a double agent. We don't know that yet, but we do, we find that out.
Yeah.
I thought that was a weird thing to just come up with. Oh, I came up with this thing that detects motion from something. And it's like, what? You did what? How did you come up with that this quick?
It's because we know now he's an android.
Yeah.
That's why. So
like a silly device to me.
We're introduced to Jonesy the cat, and he plays a very big part in this, which, by the way, let's talk about Jonesy. He rules. I'm a big fan of Jonesy.
He plays a big part in the sequel, right?
He's in the sequel, yes. He's in it, but he's definitely plays a big part in this scene. Well, he's a big part of it. Doesn't play a big part, but so Brett splits off from the group to go get Jonesy.
So that's the other big thing. Why they let him go or ordered him to go by himself.
Because you got to have people separate in slasher movies, brother. That's
I know. There's a formula. I'm just saying. I'm not that guy. I'd be like, I'm not going by myself. We're all going together.
So the scene, the Xenomorph's first kill as a fully formed Xenomorph, is awesome. Like, it is so suspenseful and creepy. Dude, there's some really great shots in this sequence. So first, I love when he sees like the skin where the Xenomorph has
shedded skin,
morphed essentially. Yeah. And there's that great shot where we see it just like on, like it's just chilling above him. We see it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what the fuck? Because you haven't been introduced yet, so you're like, the fuck is that? I don't like it. It
took my eyes a minute to like adjust to what it was. And then I recognized it. I was like, oh, there it is.
And then when he comes down from behind him, and the way the tail drops behind him, and then the Xenomorph drops, is so cool. It's such a like well-framed shot. And the way he's like, with all the water and everything. What do you guys think of this bit?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I was confused about the water. Like, why is it raining in there?
Since they're in space.
I don't know.
I have the same confusion.
It's not.
I just let it go.
Outside. It's not from outside. No. It's from something in the ship. I don't know what it is exactly either, but it's down in the engine room or something.
Yeah,
the sci-fi-ness of this movie kept me confused for most of the time.
Yeah, so his death is a great one because that's when we first see the teeth. I love that close-up shot of the alien snarling with its lip snarls. We see it's like curve, and then it like drips the gross liquid, and you're like, I don't like that at all. I don't want any part of that thing. So he's taken out first. Go ahead, Derek. What are you going to
say? It's a really interesting choice that they made to have like where he opens his mouth and then another set of teeth come out and like. Yeah. And I never, along this time, I'm like, that's so unique. And then if you've ever seen a goblin sharks kind of have they have a mouth and then they have these teeth that come out and like grab onto the prey. Anyway, it was a great, scary as hell.
Yeah, it's a great design choice for sure. Great design choice for sure. So then everybody freaks out, of course, and they're like, we've got to have another plan. We've got to have a better plan to get this. And because it went up into the air ducts. So they know that the Xenomorph is in the air ducts. So they're like, okay, we've got to trap it here. We can do these things. We flesh it out and then shoot it off into space. Like, that's the plan. So, Ripley's like, I'll go in the air ducts, and Dallas said, no, I will. You guys are doing this bit here. So he's the next one to go. What do you guys think of the air duct scene?
It's a terrible plan.
It's not the best plan to go up in there. I mean, it's a good plan to scare it with fire, but
yeah, but you're at a complete disadvantage. This jump scare totally got me.
Where it pops out? Yeah.
Yeah, where, it's complete dark and it's coming. It's going to happen. And it still got me anyway. Because as soon as he turned his flashlight and it's there and it's like, you're like, ah!
Yeah. Well, dude, if you put yourself in their shoes, that would be horrifying. Yeah. You could not.
I thought it was. Go ahead.
Oh, I was like, you could not ever pay me enough money to go up and crawl into that air vent.
Yeah.
Nothing would ever get me in that air vent with that thing. Like,
yeah. Especially with that.
No, let's just try to close it up. No. Figure out another plan. Let's trap it.
I thought that shot was kind of cheesy though. The jump scare was effective, but the shot itself was kind of cheesy, right? I feel like it was like clearly like a human in a suit in that. Like
Well,
it comes out and it's like with its hands. Like I don't
see
even
what
know.
you're saying with that.
Like
Yeah.
it comes out like this. Where it's like
Well,
it just doesn't grab him. It like stops and like wiggles its fingers.
well, it stopped. It stops because we cut because we're not supposed to know what happened to him,
Yeah.
and we find out later what happens to him. Yeah,
What else
it's
do
an
you
effective.
I
Yeah,
thought
it's
it
an
was like
effective.
it made me laugh. Like I have to admit that this movie did not scare me at all.
What?
Yeah, sucks.
I did
What?
not get scared. And I think that the chest burster scene is definitely like the best scene, and it's like at the beginning. So the rest of it's just kind of like stuff is happening. Hot takes.
Well, I had a
Hot
mini heart
takes.
attack when that happened. I was like, I probably would
I
have
definitely
flamed
jumped.
myself. I would have been like,
Oh
lit
my
myself
gosh.
on fire.
I definitely jumped, but I was like, then I just laughed because I was like, that looked so cheesy of his little fingers coming at the guy. Like,
The plan falls apart pretty quickly, obviously. So then it's about what are they going to do next? So they're trying to figure out what the next bit is. So I guess their plan is to self-destruct the ship.
Well, I don't think that was the immediate plan because the one lady was like, we should just all get in the pod and like get out of here and blow the ship up, and she was like,
Yeah.
it can't support this many people. I think this leads into her going to Mother, which by the way is a really weird name for like the hub of the ship.
Well, it's a
Or the
mothership,
computer.
I guess. Yeah.
I get it, the reference, but I would never have been able to be like, it kind of reminds me of Steppenwolf from a shitty movie I saw one time.
Oh,
but anyway,
yeah.
uh,
Mother is calling.
yeah. So Ripley, now that she's the captain, because she was the person right underneath Dallas, goes into Mother and tries to access some information, and she totally gets denied at first.
Mm-hmm. Because with Dallas missing, she is in command.
Yep.
So she has access to this. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yep.
Keep going.
And she's very persistent, so she eventually gets access, and then realizes that because they stumbled upon this alien species, there's a protocol that got put in place, and realizes that the entire crew is expendable. I paused this and like wanted to make sure I got all the information. And man, what a dick move for it. Which you could totally see a corporation doing this, by the way, where they're just like, you guys are expendable. It's fine. We'll get the android to bring back the alien species. But that scene where she like leans back and fucking what's his face is like right next to her.
Good old Ash.
What's he
yeah.
say? He say, there's a perfectly good explanation.
Yeah, something like that. Something about like an explanation of some sort. Yeah. And then she like kind of kicks his ass, pushes him up against the wall and stuff, and tells him kind of to fuck off. And then he attacks her. And he starts acting weird. Like we see he starts to like sweat like milk.
White stuff.
Like
Yeah.
white shit starts to secrete from his body. And there's like this, he just starts throwing her around like a rag doll because he's a goddamn android. Starts throwing her around like a rag doll. And then she's unconscious laying there, and he takes a magazine and he tries to like jam it down her throat.
Yeah.
Which is a way to kill somebody, I guess.
Way.
It's a way. It's a thing.
I was confused at this point. I'm like, man, what is he trying to do?
Yeah.
Suffocate her.
I thought he
Like
was trying to do
suffocated, but it's so
something other than just
weird.
kill her.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, shove something down her throat. I don't know. But it was really weird. And then, luckily the other two hear her screaming. They come in, and he bashes him with that freaking, with the tank, and his goddamn head falls off.
His head fell off. Yeah, it was pretty old.
Yeah.
And it's fighting with its head hanging off, and it's like, that's fucking creepy. I don't like that. And it's shooting milk everywhere, that gross milk shit. When it lands on top of him, and it's like shooting the milk shit at him and stuff, and he's like, get it off me! I was like, I would not have liked that at all. And I really do like when they I think it's creepy when they bring him back to life, and his head's like just sitting on the table.
Yeah.
Because his voice is all fucked up, because it's all electronified. And he just says like weird fucked up shit, essentially. He doesn't help them at all. Like, she was like, maybe he knows how to kill it, and he's just like turns into Crazy Ralph. He's like, you're doomed.
Yeah.
You're doomed if you stay.
Yeah, from his perspective, because he mentions like, it's kind of a perfect organism.
Yeah, he admires
his
yeah.
rationale. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only thing it seems like you could do is put it in an airlock and try to get it into space.
Yeah, because if you kill it, like if you try to shoot it, it's going
You're
to
going to destroy your ship.
Yeah, the acid's going to leak through. So that's not going to be good. So, I mean, besides knocking it unconscious, you know what I mean? Or like finding a way to like snap its neck or something, you're kind of in some trouble. Like, incinerating it. You might be able to incinerate it. That might work. You might be able to incinerate it. And hope that, you burn the blood. But you're definitely not going to, like, shoot it,
Yeah, man, I would have gotten everybody into the airlock, secured everybody to the wall with an anchor, and waited for that thing to come in there after us, and then opened it up and see, take your chances.
Well, you obviously have to be wearing your spacesuits too.
That is, I know. Yeah. But
and they have the bulky ass guys, not the nice slick boys that they have in Interstellar. Those would be the way to go if you need to run away. Those nice slim boys.
For sure.
Yeah, so when they get fucked up, the remaining two survivors get fucked up by the alien next. And it's just not good news for them. What's her name? I know his name is Parker. Her name is Lambert. She's the navigator. And like, it just, when it comes down at her and it's just fucking slow walking towards her. And he's like, get out of the way. I would have been like, sorry, but I'm going to flamethrow you. Hopefully you get out of the way. I'm going to give it a shot. You're muted, by the way, Derek. Once every episode.
I thought I was going to make it.
You made it deep into it this time. Deep into it, yeah.
I know. One day. Actually, I do think there was at least one. Anyway. No, you're right. You're right. Like, because she can hear this, Ripley's character can hear this over the intercom. Like, he's telling her to get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. At some point, you just got to pull the trigger and see what happens. That sucks for her, but, she should have gotten out of the way.
Yeah, instead he thinks it's a good idea to try to tackle it. I would not try to tackle that goddamn thing.
Nah. No.
There would be a lot of space between me and it at all times. At all times. But it, he gets crushed off by it, and then she gets killed by it as well. And Ripley finds their dead bodies. And so then it's her alone versus the alien. So this last bit is great because we get like the ticking clock of the ship's going to self-destruct. She tries to lure it out, and then she could go and like cancel it if she does it within the time frame. But if it's after 5 minutes, or when there's only 5 minutes left in the countdown, she can't. So she tries to cancel it out, but the ship's not taking it. So she's like, "Fuck! I've got 5 minutes to get to that airlock on the other side and avoid this alien. So we're left in the dark. We don't know where it is. Like, it's just there somewhere. So every corner, it could be there. So she gets onto the ship, takes Jonesy the cat with her, and in a really cool futuristic carrying case. And then gets into the airlock and gets away from that ship. And it explodes. And this motherfucker explodes like 4 times.
Yeah.
Like, it explodes, and there's a shockwave. Then it explodes again, and there's another shockwave. Then it explodes a 3rd time. There's not quite a shockwave, and then there's like a bright light. And I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah,
They do
like how
blow
did
up
they
a
pull that
fucking
off?
planet.
Yeah, I don't know. What was on that ship? Those chemicals must have been, the minerals that they were mining were legit, I guess. So this thing explodes, so she's on it, and this is where we get my favorite jump scare of the movie, which is she's starting to get undressed, ready to, get into the pod. This would be so terrible. The reason it's my favorite because I just put myself in this character's situation, and this would be fucking mortifying because you just went through all of this. And she leans over, and it comes out of the freak. It's like in that little cubby, hiding. Just hiding in the cubby. And it like reaches out for her, and you're like, no way. And it doesn't want to leave the spot because it's wanting to hitch a ride. That's what it's wanting to do, is hitch a ride to Earth. Which is terrifying. So she slips into that spacesuit. And she's like, I'm gonna fucking open the airlock and hope for the best. Which really, what else are you to do?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah. You're just kind of screwed, right?
Well, she's trapped herself in this tiny space with this creature.
Yeah.
That's really the only option she has.
So she
Then she provokes it.
Yeah, she has to get it out. So she, shocks it and gets it out of there. And then it's just like, oh my God, what are you going to do? So she opens the airlock, and then it holds on.
Yeah.
So she shoots it with that harpoon, and then it's still hanging on to the ship and starts to try to crawl up the ventilation shaft. So she freaking ignites it and sends it out into outer space finally, incinerates it and gets it away. And then luckily they have hibernation sleep, because I don't think I'd be sleeping after that.
No kidding.
What do you guys think of this ending?
I like
and
it.
She goes into the deep sleep, obviously, and then she gives a voiceover, and then we're off. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think that's a great way to get rid of an alien on your ship. It's just like
How else do you do it?
kick it out the door.
Yeah, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah. The only complaint I have about the whole ending of the movie is all the flashing lights and steam, the steam shooting out from just every direction.
Yeah, but the steam looks cool. That's why it's
there. The steam looks cool, but the strobe lights are not as cool.
That's not good. That's not good for seizure folk either.
No. And it's also not good for me because it just irritates me.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you think of the ending there, Derek?
I feel like it was the logical conclusion to, kind of the situation she had been put in. I am glad that she survived. I guess I'm glad that the cat survived. I'm not a big cat fan, but
Josie's cool. He's another level.
Yeah, but I definitely see where you're coming from. I would probably have the most horrific nightmare, so I'm glad that she had something to force her to sleep.
Unfortunately, she ends up sleeping for 60 years. So, which we find out in the sequel. But yeah, it's a cool ending because she's heading towards Earth. She has rid this. She's went through hell, and she's like, I'm just going to sleep and navigate. There was an early ending that was written that didn't make it through, where the alien bites her head off, and then uses her voice to talk to Earth. And they were like, no, that's dumb.
Wow.
That's cheesy. Let's not do that. That's awful. Thankfully. They're like,
Is there
what's a
another
darker...
movie that does that?
There's a couple movies that do like similar things where they're
Independence Day? The alien uses the
dude's voice. Yeah. But
Yeah.
more like the alien impersonates them. So that way they would get picked up to be on Earth. So it's like a darker ending.
Right, yeah.
But it's also kind of, I don't want to see that creature talking. That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
That would turn the movie I'm like, this whole time I'm talking about how scary the xenomorph is. It's like, man, that's a scary creature. And then it's like, is a mimic? Like, does it do fucking an hour at the Improv afterwards?
Right? Like,
You
what is
should
this,
hear
Predator?
my George Bush.
Predator kind of does that, doesn't he?
Yeah. Except he more talks like this mostly. Motherfucker.
Yeah.
But that is Alien. So, guys, what are you guys' thoughts? And what are you going to rate Alien? Whoever wants to go first, I don't care.
Derek?
Sure. So it's a super interesting premise for a movie. The fact that it's set in space, so it's super contained. Really, the elements are kind of trying to kill you. You can't go outside the ship.
Yeah, that's what we didn't mention. That is a really good point. That's what makes it, I think, even scarier. Is that there's nowhere to run, right? You're stuck.
When they're on that planet, which is definitely not designed for like life that is native to Earth, that is also very scary. I mean, the whole thing. If you put yourself in their position, maybe you find a different line of work. Just saying.
Like a meter maid.
Yeah, but
it'd be an accountant.
The look of the
Space
alien
accountant.
is so iconic. There's not many people, I think, that Quincy knows what these things look like. She doesn't like horror movies. They're very industrial looking.
H.R. Geiger. Yeah,
it would just be a really scary thing to come across if you were in space. So I think it's got a good cast. They did a pretty good job. I'm going to give this movie an 8. I had a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah,
One day we'll get to the sequels.
It did give us a really iconic. It did give us a really iconic character too, like you mentioned. Ellen Ripley ends up becoming, a badass in the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of a badass in this, actually, too, right? I mean, she really is.
She is, yeah.
She's not a damsel in distress. She's trying to figure shit out.
She's strong and
takes
smart.
No shits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
She is scared also, fairly.
Well, obviously, yeah. Which you wouldn't be in that situation. Even Bill Paxton gets scared in that situation. Game over, man. Go ahead, Lydia.
So I think I'm gonna give this movie a 7. I liked it, but I think there were like so many things working against it for me, and it probably didn't help that I was like really sick while I was watching it. And I think, with a lot of movies, it's like the first time you watch it, if you're like not in the right mood, it just doesn't sit with you, right? But I felt like it just didn't hold up, honestly. Like a first time watch in 2022, Alien, I was like, this isn't scary. But I think it was, it was definitely scary when it came out, you know, but now it's like it's shaped pop culture in so many ways, you know, shaped so many movies. It's probably like really trend setting for alien sci-fi slashers, you know.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna give it. I'd give it a 7.5 to 8 as well. Probably an 8. Because yeah, there's things that are dated. It is, you know, nearly 40, almost 50 years old at this point. You know, so yeah, there's gonna be things that are dated as far as effects and stuff go. But I think the suspense still holds up for sure. I think the scenes of suspense are really suspenseful. And I think the art direction on the ship is beautiful. There's some like really gorgeous shots of the spaceship itself, and like when we're not seeing the industrial hallways and stuff, but like when we're seeing like the dining area or the pods themselves or Mother even, like all the lights and stuff. Good production value. And when we see the planet that they step on, and the ship design that is now iconic, you know, that Charlize Theron runs from in in a straight line in Prometheus. But yeah, there's a lot of good in this movie, and especially for when it came out, it does gift us with a really iconic character that does even more interesting stuff in the next movie. And the alien itself does so much more with not only this movie, but, you know, the AVPs and, you know, the Prometheus movies and everything, the comics that it spawns. It spawned an entire franchise. So it did its job. So I'm going to give it an 8 as well. The music, we didn't really talk about the music. It's very minimalistic.
Yeah.
The score on this. And I kind of like it. Because it's just kind of there. You know what I mean? We don't get these big like you know, things. So it's it's a very interesting movie. It's, you know, one of Ridley Scott's first big movies. It led him to make Blade Runner and you know, all the other classic Ridley Scott movies we have today. So, yeah, an 8. So, guys, it's time to Atkinize this movie. Who would Tom Atkins, we know who it's going to be. Who would Tom Atkins play in this movie?
Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me.
Detective, thrill me.
Is he a cowboy?
Ridley.
Who'd you say, Leah?
I said Ridley. I meant Ripley.
Oh, I mean, if you gender swapped it, yeah, he'd be badass. Dallas is who I would pick him to play.
Yeah, that's why I said, is he a cowboy?
Yeah. He'd have to be, right? I mean, you wouldn't put him as Ash. He beats up androids, as we saw earlier when we did Halloween 3.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that he would, and you know, I think he would have fit really well. I mean, all joking aside, I think he would have done a really good job as Dallas.
No, I think he would have done great. Yeah, Tom Skerritt does great in it too. Don't get me wrong; he's really good in the movie. And I do like how Dallas is kind of set up as one of our, you know, like the lead kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of a McCready. You know what I mean? You get kind of like a McCready vibe from him.
Yeah.
Just not as badass as McCready. Because really, besides Snake Plissken, who is?
True.
Am I right? So,
Sorry
Tom
that.
Atkins. It's all right. It was weird, but I'll let it pass. Derek. Derek. Do you have a story this week? Tell us, Bunny, please.
I don't even know if that's a story worth telling. I mean, you know, picture it. It's Peru. No, I guess it would be in the 2000s.
It was not in 19 anything.
2005
Ugh.
ish, 5 to 7, 2005 to 2007, one of those times. And so, like, a big group of us, we got together almost every night of the summer. We're hanging
Every
out.
night,
We're we're doing stuff. And so, like, a lot of times we went out to the reservoir, and there's a couple stories there.
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah.
one
Tell
night we
one of
went
them.
out
Whatever you
there,
wanna
and
do. Yeah.
we were all drunk, and we were all of age, just for anybody out there. And we decided to go jump into the lake. Except one of
It's a
us can't.
reservoir.
I'm inebriated. Like, this was super dangerous because, like, if I were 2 more beers in, there's a good chance I swim the wrong direction. But luckily, I wasn't.
Luckily, he'd only had 2 beers before because 4 was Derek's limit.
But we all jump in, and everybody's like running towards the cars. I am one of the last people to get out, and the one person that they left behind to help me was the one person who didn't know how to swim.
That's right, Nick. Yeah.
Nick was left to help drag my sloppy ass out of the water. Which, by the way, the boat dock, because we always went to this boat dock. Like, when you get to the water, like, cause it's concrete, and you get to the water, and then, man, it's like full of like fucking algae and all kinds of shit. And so, like, it is really slick. So I'm like trying to stand up, and I'm falling down trying to get out of the water. And Nick's like, "Come on, Derek, I'll help you up." And I'm thankful for you, Nick. I am. I'm thankful for you. But another time we went out there, we're like, I heard that. Called it out anyway. Another time we went out there, we're like, hey, you know what? Let's navigate through the woods. Nobody had a flashlight. Luckily, the age of the cell phone was upon us, and so we all got out our razors.
We all had razors. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got out our razors. Back in those days, they didn't have flashlights, so we had our tiny little screens, shining our way through the woods. And we come up, we're pretty close to the road, and somebody's driving past us, and I don't know why our friend, if we should name his name or not. We've named him before.
Joey. Yeah, it's Joey.
Yeah, so Joey's like, "Quick, guys, dive into the woods."
He said, "Cops!" and jumped into the woods. And so Jimmy and I keep walking forward. We're like, why did you guys just jump? Why did you guys jump into the woods? Joey jumped in. Derek jumped in with him. Me, Carrie, and Carrie, and Jimmy were like. So tell what happened, Derek.
Well, I did not get poison ivy, thank God, but Joey did, and that just goes. If you're not breaking the law, don't worry about the cops. Well, that's not true.
Joey's extremely allergic to poison ivy, so he got it pretty bad.
Yeah. No, I am. I'm pretty allergic to it as well, so I just am very thankful that the wind wasn't blowing in the wrong direction.
So, of course, remember the spiny fleas. So we go swimming this. We go swimming in this reservoir at the boat dock multiple times. And we all go swimming, and the next day we are all like deathly ill. Like, we all are like terribly sick. Like, Joey's like poison ivied and like shit coming out of his nose, and I feel like crap. Carrie doesn't feel good. Derek feels awful. We're like, man, I wonder why we just feel so bad. We go to the boat docks that like the next night that we're feeling better, and there's a new sign there that wasn't there before, and it says, "Beware of underwater spiny fleas."
Oh my gosh!
And we were like, "What the hell's a spiny flea?" Doesn't sound good, but maybe it had something to do with us getting deathly ill.
Oh my gosh!
You're muted, by the way, Derek.
So if I had to guess, I would think that it was. I would bet money it was less to do with the spiny fleas that made us feel ill, and probably more to do with like a weird like algae like thing that was going on with the lake. But yeah, those spiny
probably.
fleas are itchy sons of bees.
Yes, they are.
And they're real, by the way. I was like, there's no way that's real. Someone just made that shit up. Nope, they exist.
Yeah, they really usually pose no direct risk to humans, but something in that water was not good for us, was it, Derek?
Nope, they sound ominous.
Yeah.
They sound like they're gonna wreck your night.
So I think that was like one of the last times we went to the lake was that time that we all got like ill off of the lake water.
Yeah, and somebody cut the boat dock off of the.
They did shortly after. Yeah.
Yeah, they cut it off, and what kind of an asshole does that?
Yeah, that was our hangout. We'd just go in there and we'd always just chill there, look up at the stars. So guys, that was Ridley Scott's Alien, and it's my turn to pick. Yes.
Yep.
So I was thinking about this all day. And this is the part where normally, with the old set, I would look back at my Blu-rays that are no longer there and say, oh, let me look through it real fast. But I don't have that. So I've been thinking about it all day, and I've narrowed it down to literally 2 movies. And so I'm going to have one of you guys pick which one here. So in this hand, we have one, and in this hand, we have one. So, Lydia, I'll let you pick this time. Is it...
I picked last time.
Okay, so then it's your turn, Derek. Okay, so left or right? Which one is it?
Is that like A or B?
Yeah, whichever one. Left or right?
Or if we're going algebraic, it would be X and Y.
Pick one of the hands.
It's just left or right. Just
That's
left or right.
Just left or right. Unless you're ambidextrous.
It's still the same. Still left and right.
Just let Jamie keep doing this motion for as long as possible.
If the angle was different, it looks like it would have looked way worse.
Freddie! Anyway, I'm gonna go with left.
Okay, then we are doing John McTiernan's 1987 flick, Predator.
Nice. All right, now we're talking.
Maybe get the duck face out for that one.
We gotta shoot up on the testosterone, guys, because we ain't got time to bleed when we watch.
That's right.
When we watch
Predator. Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper now. You guys want to know what this one was? Or do you want me to
What was it? Oh gosh, what was it?
It was Barbarian.
Oh,
so that one's got to be on the way. So I was thinking about it, and then after I watched Alien, I was like, I kind of want to watch Predator now.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll let the guys decide. I was thinking about it all like the whole time. I'm like, which one am I going to pick? And then I was like, I'll just have one of the guys pick left or right. We'll play the left or right game. So, Predator. Let's see where that bad boy is streaming. Predator is streaming on Hulu. Yes. So you can find Predator on Hulu. I own it because, of course, I do. It's Predator. And if you don't own it, get your lives together, guys. Get your lives together.
Mm-hmm.
And stick around. There's going to be a ton of puns for this one.
Yeah.
So, any last thoughts about this week's movie? Or next week's movie? Or any last thoughts in general? What do you want in your tombstone? Pepperoni. You guys remember those?
I do.
I don't, but I remember
Every now
you
and
guys
then.
referencing them.
Yeah.
I do quote it.
I'm your Huckleberry.
It's
Too bad Tombstone's not a horror movie. Would do it too.
Ooh, we could just do that one anyways.
There's a special episode of Tombstone is badass.
bonus episodes of non-horror movies that we need to cover.
Maybe we should do that on Patreon. Maybe we should do that on Patreon. It's a good idea.
It is a bloody movie.
It is, yeah.
Right?
Is that because you have an English accent?
Unlike other
a lot of people get massacred.
Terrible joke. I'm sorry. I'll work on my humor.
Yeah, I've been telling you that for years. Good Lord. All right, if there's nothing else, you can follow us online. You can follow us on Facebook at HiLa Productions. You can follow us on our website and get merchandise at HiLaProductions.com. You can follow us each on Twitter. You can follow Lydia at LydiaSpooky. Follow Derek at DDoglyMaster. You can follow me at Racket. Also, you can listen, if you're the audiophile, you can listen to this podcast on all major podcast apps, such as Apple Podcast, Spotify, what have you. Be sure to watch John McTiernan's Predator for next week, because it is going to be a super fun episode to go through. And then I think the week following, we'll have a special episode for you as well. So if there's nothing else for you guys, for Derek Lemaster and Lydia Judy, I am Jamie Hiles. And remember, if you're going to scream, don't do it in space because they can't hear you scream. Brought it back. And scream bloody movies. Good night, guys.